The other day I was looking online. I think it was CNN had this interview. It was an interview with a seventh grade girl. And after that interview, I literally just wept. It just broke my heart to listen to this interview. It was a girl that was talking about how pornography has affected boys. Now, what was so terrifying to me was that she said that the reason she watches pornography, when she was asked, do you watch? Yes, I do. And she was being asked, bad for the boys, then, why are you doing it? And her answer is what just melted me. She says, I have to learn what these boys are looking at so I know what to model. Now think about that. You're talking to a man that has a daughter that's 22 years old. But she wasn't always 22 years old. And I started to think about what that must be like in her world. And you'd have to, the article was longer than that. But basically she came out and she said that it's expected of girls to take selfies of themselves. And there's an immense pressure put on them because she said that in order to get a boyfriend or to become socially acceptable, it's expected of you to take a nude selfie of yourself from the waist up, and that is basically your identification that the boys will go through, and they will select from the pictures. She said if you don't do that, you're not going to get a date. You're not going to get asked out. You're just not going to have anything. And there's some that would say, well, good, they don't need it. But I didn't read the article so that I could scrutinize the logic behind it. I'm saying to you, this is the level of wickedness that has risen on my watch in my generation. The reason I wrote this book here, called The Exalted Self, was for that girl. And the reason that I wrote The Exalted Soul is because it helps people to understand what's driving this world of pornography. Now, this book is The Exalted Self. It's on HaroldWade.com, and it's a free download. There's no reason why you shouldn't have it. If you need it, and it's even available on an e-reader, and yes, it can be a hard copy, but the only way I could provide it for free was to make it a download on my website. But it's the reason that these things are out there that for this young girl that really broke my heart. She said in the interview that not only is the naked selfie expected now, but she said she had to learn how to perform oral sex before she was even old enough to kiss. Now she's in the 7th grade, and I could tell this wasn't her first go-around. This is part of growing up as a little kid now in these days. And where is this coming from? I looked in the Bible and I found some text in the book of Judges. And let me explain this to you a little bit. The book of Judges twice, in the 17th chapter and the 21st chapter, says this statement, that because there's no king in Israel, people do what's right in their own eyes. And that's really the heartbeat behind the exalted soul. It's when the absence of true spiritual guidance is motivating the human being, that the soul, the mind, the will, the emotions just scrambles to make a connection in life. And whatever seems to make sense with use of logic and peer pressure, that is what becomes that person's normal. And I can just see this in this girl's, in this interview, that she's thinking my value is only found if I can be a certain shape, a certain size, and on top of that, if I'm willing to just perform. And she went on to say, yes used to mean, I was willing to go to a certain level, but then she went on to say, now, she said yes meant, I don't even know how to say this. It's embarrassing to me. Yes just means something more than just sexual activity. It means so much more. And she's just saying this is expected. And this is happening, right now. This isn't some futuristic thing. Let me read something to you in the book of Judges, chapter number 2. The Bible said that the people of Israel served God all the days of Joshua. And in the second chapter, verse 10, it says, when all that generation had been gathered to their fathers, another generation arose after them who did not know the Lord, nor the work which he had done for Israel. This is happening right now. That's what I thought of when I read that article. When this girl was quoted and saying the things that she was saying, I was thinking, she's the generation that comes up after me. This is what's going to happen, or this is what has already happened. People forget a lot of things that God has done in their lives. And I think that this serves as a reminder to us as men, that we, the fathers, need to be the ones that are expressing what is the biblical pattern of living, including sexuality, to the next generation. And I'll just be truthful with you. I don't see a tremendous surge pushing back against this in the church that churches that I know of. I'm not going to say they don't have some place where you can secretly go to, but in mainstream church, this is just the elephant in the room. We're not going to talk about these things. We're going to tell you that there's help and there's healing, but we're not going to take the lead and say this is what sexuality is. This is where it begins. This is the pattern. This is what real manhood looks like. This is what real womanhood looks like. And in this book, the Exalted Self, the first 3 sections of it is spent telling the reader this is the pattern that what really pornography is fighting against. Pornography is an assault on God reproducing his image on this earth. God made the choice to recreate his image on this earth. He said, let us make them in our image, in our likeness. It was through the concept of bringing to the physical realm, what does it mean to remake the spiritual God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, reproducing them on the earth. It is brought to the physical realm through the male and the female in the covenant, reproducing their kind. This is really at the heart of pornography. It is the lie that is intended to recreate a distorted image of our real Father in heaven. And this is why it's so important that you get this, because I know that most people just look at it and say, well, I just want to stop it. That's not going to be enough. It's not enough to just stop it. You need to be restored by the truth to becoming something, instead of just having this vacuum hole that says, well, I got this out of my life, I'm good to go. That's not the goal. The goal is to find the plan and the purpose of God and have him take that void out of you and then refill it, restore you. And I'm really excited about these because I know that this is from the Lord. I know that if you'll take the time to read it, that God will use it to bring you out of bondage to this thing so that you see exactly what God has for you. And it's imperative that we reach this next generation. I don't believe that they're too far gone. I believe in the same way that this girl is looking for the pattern to follow in pornography, that we can also say, well, here is a better pattern to follow. Here is the pattern that God has for us in every arena of life, and you're created for more than this. if she can model her living or her life after these things on the internet, then she can model her living and life through the words of God. Hey, there's a whole generation coming up behind us, and I'm looking forward to what God's getting ready to do. And I'm telling you, as a minister, as a husband, as a father, that that we have to be more in tune with heaven now than ever. And I hope that these books can help. There's also 20 or 21 videos that are on my website that help break these books down. You know, I try to keep these videos about 10 to 12 minutes, you know, so people can find some guidance for these books. But anyhow, let me know what you think. Visit my website. There's a little message thing at the bottom if you want to leave me a message. And I believe God's got great things, and I look forward to hearing from you. Lord bless.